So far, we've primarily been dealing with video. In the world of video editing, though, you often work with still images like photographs and graphics. And in this movie, we'll take a look at some of the basics surrounding working with still images. So I'm going to click on my stills folder, and you can see that we have quite a few still images here, mostly photographs, some graphics. And if I click on any one of them, you can see that it selects a range by default, and this is a 4-second range. So if I don't mark an in and an out point, by default, it will just edit down a 4-second duration of a still. You can change that by coming up to Final Cut Pro, Preferences, and then under Editing, Still Images, Editing Duration is, and right now it's at 4 seconds. You can make that whatever you like. I'll go ahead and leave it at 4 seconds for now. I'm going to toggle this from Film Strip View to List View. And I'm just going to drag this over a little bit so we can see my frame size column. And if frame size is not displayed for you, just right-click on the header and then put a check mark next to frame size. And of course, you can move these columns to the left and the right, however you like. But as you can see, I have lots of different sizes of still image here, and also lots of different shapes. I have some that are landscape view. I have some that are portrait view. That's one of the main differences between images and video. Typically, video comes in at the same basic aspect ratio. So while there are quite a few video formats, there's little room for vast differences in aspect ratio among like formats. So if we're in HD, we're going to be dealing with 16:9 video. Images, on the other hand, can literally come in any shape or size. The possibilities are limitless. Therefore, there are quite a few things that are useful to know when working with stills. So let's take one of these larger images here. I'll go ahead and just select this one. And right now I am looking at a 5,616 pixel by 3,744 pixel image. So very large. And right now we're seeing the whole thing. But you know what? We're actually seeing it at only 8%. Because our video environment is 1,280 pixels by 720 pixels. If I was to change this from 8% to 100%, now we're really seeing it, pixel for pixel. You can see here that I can drag this little red box around and really pan over the entire image so that I can see all that I have to work with in terms of resolution. As I go through each of these images at 100%, you can really see how much detail I have within still images. And we're not really aware of that unless we look at it at 100%. But today's cameras really can capture amazing resolution, so we really can take full advantage of this in the world of video editing. I'm going to go back out to Fit, and I'm going to go into Exercise Files and 9.2, and we'll go back to Film Strip View, and I'll load my Stills Begin sequence. And as you can see, here are a bunch of still images, and I've just put it to music. So we're going to make a little bit of a slideshow. And I think each one of these is right now at 4 seconds. You can check by just selecting it. And yeah, we're at 4 seconds. If you want to change that en masse, that's very easy. You can just select all of your images, and then you just press Control-D to set the duration. And let's say that I wanted to make all of them 3 seconds. I would just type in 300 and then enter, and then each one of them is going to go to 3 seconds. But I'll go ahead and stay at 4, so let me undo that, Command-Z. And let me come to my first image here. If I open up the inspector, Command-4, and then select my video tab and go all the way to the bottom, you can see the spatial conform category. By default, just like in the browser, the fit option is chosen, where the images fit within the video frame and the aspect ratio is maintained. Now, this often results in some letterboxing or pillar boxing. You can especially see it in an image like this, where the aspect ratio is maintained so the image is not stretched or squeezed, and the rest of the image is flooded in black, simply because of the discrepancy between the shape of our image and the shape of our video frame. Now, if you change fit to fill, I'll go ahead and change that. You can see that there are no black bars, so it zooms in to fit the shape of the video frame. This, of course, means that some of the edges of the image will not be visible. This last option, None, is basically the same as 100%. It doesn't do any type of scaling, but rather it leaves it alone and you're looking at it pixel for pixel. So I'm going to go back to Fit, and by default, every image that you bring into the Final Cut timeline is at Fit unless you change that. Now, in the last movie, we talked about various motion effects like transform, crop, and distort. You certainly have all of those at your disposal when you're dealing with still images as well. I won't be explaining what each of these does again, but I will demonstrate how you can do any of the same operations with still images. For example, I'll just come down to the lower left and enable my wireframe, and we'll select crop. So let's just trim away a large portion of this frame. Let's make this picture all about the guy in the middle with the flag. So we'll go ahead and trim everybody else away. And we're reshaping this image. And now we can go back to transform and make it bigger. And then we can even go back to crop and put a little Ken Burns movement on it. So we have totally redefined what this image is. And like I said in the last movie, the Ken Burns effect is very popular for this sort of thing. So let's go ahead and very quickly apply it to some of these images. I'll just select this one. And again, we'll go into crop and we'll go to Ken Burns. And I'm okay with just a subtle movement here. And done. And I'll press my down arrow and go to the next one. Of course, the greater resolution of your images, the greater you can push these sorts of movements. But most of the time, it's good to be pretty subtle in your motion. You want to add interest and depth, not make people seasick. So I'm going to come to my stills end 1, where I've already added some movement to each of these images. And I just want to also mention how you can very quickly add some dissolves in between each of the clips. Just select all of them and then press Command-T. That is going to add the default transition, which happens to be the dissolve in between all of the clips. And we'll learn much more about transition effects in the next movie, but far and away, the dissolve is the most popular one. So it took us just a few seconds to create a slideshow. I'll go ahead and play it so you can see how it's working. So as you can see, there are some very simple but creative ways to work with still images in Final Cut Pro X. And fortunately, the built-in motion effects make it easy to isolate or emphasize the area of the frame that you want to show.